Welcome to the deep dive. Let's jump straight in. There's this story that just sent, well, a huge tremor through the tech world.
Oh, yeah.
Picture this. It's January, and this seemingly unknown Chinese AI startup, DeepSeek, they dropped their R1 model.
Okay.
And it doesn't just, compete. It actually beats the big Western players on standard AI tests.
Wow, okay. Out of nowhere.
Pretty much. But here's the real kicker. The mind-boggling part. They claim they built their base model for something like 5% of what GPT-4 cost OpenAI.
5%. Seriously.
Seriously. And what's really wild is that these results apparently triggered a massive $1 trillion sell-off in U.S. markets.
$1 trillion just from that.
Yeah. It shattered a lot of assumptions, and sparked some really thorny questions about this whole global AI race.
It's pretty remarkable how fast the ground shifted there. I mean, for years, a lot of folks in the U.S. kind of held on to this idea that China was, way behind in AI.
Right, that was the narrative.
Exactly. And DeepSeek's sudden appearance just, it ripped that illusion away, showed a competitive reality that's much more intense than maybe people were ready for.
Absolutely. So, okay, our first mission today, let's unpack this DeepSeek story, their rapid rise. We'll explore how its success really highlights the vibrant, maybe even surprisingly resilient state of China's AI scene. Despite all the U.S. efforts to slow things down with export controls and whatnot.
Right.
We'll look at the founder, their kind of unique approach, and this whole geopolitical chess game playing out over AI.
But as AI moves this fast, it's not just about who's winning the tech race, is it?
No, good point.
It raises this really critical question, okay? What happens when AI stuff starts to, completely saturate the digital spaces we use, the places we go for info, for connection?
That's such a crucial angle. So for the second part of our deep dive today, we're going to pivot. We're looking at something that honestly sounds like sci-fi, but feels increasingly real. The dead internet theory.
Ah, right. I remember that surfacing.
Yeah, it was kind of dismissed at first.
Yeah.
This idea that AI-generated chatter would just overwhelm everything, choke out actual human stuff online.
Seemed a bit fringe back then.
Totally. But now, with this generative AI boom, you'll hear how this theory is starting to feel, weirdly prophetic. It's changing everything, your social media feed, search results, all of it.
So today, we're basically connecting these two stories. They seem separate, maybe. DeepSeek's rise and this dead internet idea.
Exactly.
But they're actually deeply interconnected, both part of this rapid shift in AI. And our goal is really to help you cut through the noise, understand what's actually important here.
Right, so you can navigate this evolving digital world a bit more clearly. Okay, let's start with DeepSeek. And specifically, its founder, Liang Wenfeng, he sounds like quite a character, described as having a wispy frame, reserved, maybe even prone to faltering speech.
Doesn't sound like a typical tech exec.
No. But apparently, new hires figure out fast that his quietness isn't timidity. He's known for firing off these super precise, hard-to-answer questions about everything, model architecture, compute costs.
The details guy.
Totally. In fact, employees apparently call him the tech madman behind his back. What does that tell us about the culture he's building there?
Well, it says he's a real intellectual force, right? A deep, deep nerd who's pushing boundaries. And what seems really key is how he empowers young people, even interns.
Interesting.
Yeah, a former staffer said Liang understood the research better than the researchers themselves. That kind of culture is, it's vital for moving fast.
Like how? Give me an example.
Okay, so there's a story about a student researcher. Liang apparently just gave him the green light to build the whole infrastructure for RLHF that's reinforcement learning from human feedback.
Right, the crucial bit where humans help train the AI.
Exactly. And Liang just said, go for it, because no one else was doing it yet. That trust in just raw talent, that's a massive accelerator.
And you can see how that trust paid off with the R1 model. Felt like an explosion onto the scene.
Totally.
And beyond just beating Western models on tests, that claim, building the base model for 5% of GPT-4's cost, that's just staggering. What does that kind of efficiency mean for AI development?
It's potentially a huge shift. I mean, historically, the massive cost of training these big language models, that's been a major barrier. It kept power in the hands of just a few really well-funded companies.
Right.
So this 5% number, even if, it only refers to one specific training run or something, it suggests the actual cost floor for cutting-edge models might be way lower than we thought.
So it could open the door for more players.
It could mean the barrier to entry is dropping, yeah.
Mm.
Potentially democratizing AI development, letting smaller teams compete. But on the flip side, you got to ask,
What?
are they really accounting for all the data costs, the talent? What about the initial R&D investment? It raises questions too.
That's a really interesting balance, and clearly it sends shockwaves. That trillion-dollar sell-off in the U.S. market says it all.
Right.
Even giants like Amazon and Microsoft were rushing to get DeepSeek's models onto their cloud platforms. It really just punctured that comfortable idea that the U.S. had this unbeatable lead.
Yeah, it did. The truth is, places like Hangzhou, where DeepSeek is based, and other Chinese tech hubs, they've been buzzing. The local industry even calls them little AI dragons.
Little AI dragons, I like that.
Yeah. You've got sophisticated chatbots from companies like Minimax and Moonshot AI, Alibaba's Qwen models. They're consistently ranked near the top. Baidu claims they can match DeepSeek but cheaper with their new supercomputer.
Wow.
Even Huawei is getting praise for chips designed to compete directly with NVIDIA's AI chips.
It's quite a turnaround, isn't it? Especially when you think it wasn't long ago the Chinese Communist Party was kind of cracking down on its tech sector. Antitrust probes, new rules.
The tech crackdown.
But now it seems like President Xi Jinping is actively pushing national resources into AI and semiconductors. He's calling for this independent, controllable ecosystem. It feels like a full-on national mission now.
Which leads to a really interesting question. Did the U.S. efforts to slow China down the export controls actually help push these recent advances?
You mean like forcing their hand?
Maybe. An analyst at Counterpoint, Wei Sun, he thinks the AI gap now is maybe months, not years. He talks about this collective ethic in China, this intense work style leading to executional superiority. He even suggests the lack of NVIDIA chips, that scarcity created a kind of Darwinian pressure. You know, survival goes to whoever can do more with less. And that forces new kinds of innovation out of necessity.
But where China sees innovation, many in the U.S. still see, well, something else. Foul play, maybe.
Right, the suspicion is definitely there.
There was this bipartisan House committee report in April. It alleged significant ties between DeepSeek and the Chinese government. Even claimed they unlawfully stole data from OpenAI and pose a profound threat to U.S. security.
Strong words.
Yeah. And the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, he's called for more U.S. export controls. He basically argues DeepSeek must have smuggled in a lot of NVIDIA GPUs. That secrecy around them really fuels that suspicion, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Now, the Chinese embassy has denied all this, called it groundless, and NVIDIA itself says DeepSeek's chips were export compliant. They actually argue more restrictions could backfire and help Chinese chip makers like Huawei by forcing DeepSeek to use their stuff.
So NVIDIA's saying don't restrict us.
Kind of, yeah. But the company itself, DeepSeek, they remain this enigma. They pride themselves on open sourcing their tech, but they're incredibly quiet about how they operate internally. Costs, GPU origins, they won't say.
So it's like open source tech, closed doors company.
Exactly. It's this weird paradox.
It really is. Even Perplexity AI, you know, they use DeepSeek's tech. They branded R1-1776, kind of an odd homage to freedom.
Yeah.
Their chief business officer admits, we don't know what DeepSeek's true motivations are. It's a bit of a black box. And then you hear DeepSeek researchers talking openly about decoupling values from LLMs, showing prototypes where developers could just select options for things like gambling or gun ownership to fit different societies.
That suggests a very different way of thinking about AI ethics or alignment.
Definitely. And this whole doing more with less idea, it seems to go way back for Liang Wenfeng, the founder.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, during the financial crisis, he and some friends developed programs to trade stocks, showed an early knack for using tech efficiently.
Ah, the quant background.
Exactly. After graduating, he built these quant trading systems, algorithmic trading, made a fortune, then launched High Flyer Quant in 2015.
Okay.
They were pulling top talent from Google, Facebook, promising this casual office culture, T-shirts, slippers, a real contrast to, like, corporate finance.
Right, trying to build that tech startup vibe.
And even with High Flyer, Liang was still a bit mysterious. Their first social media post just called him Mr. L. But they were transparent about results, posting weekly performance charts. Billions apparently flowed into High Flyer. And Liang started an AI division back in 2019.
Ah, so the AI interest wasn't sudden.
No. He started buying up thousands of NVIDIA chips, V100s, A100s. A former engineer called deep learning his expensive hobby back then, but said for Liang, it was small money.
Just pocket change for a quant billionaire, maybe?
Pretty much.
Huh.
So by early 2022, Highflyer had 5,000 NVIDIA A100s. By March, 10,000. And that was just months before the really strict U.S. chip export rules hit.
Timing.
Yeah. Then, about 5 months after ChatGPT launched, DeepSeek spins out as its own independent research lab. And the focus shifts totally from finance to chasing artificial general intelligence, AGI.
The big prize.
And a huge part of their strategy, apparently a big early bet, was on something called sparsity.
Sparsity, right. Explain that.
Okay, so instead of the whole massive LLM lighting up like one big brain for every single question.
Which is how many models work, the dense ones.
Right. A sparse model is broken into smaller, specialized experts, and only the relevant experts activate for a given task.
Ah, so it's more efficient.
Potentially hugely efficient in terms of computing costs. But it's also apparently incredibly complex to get right.
A big technical challenge.
Yeah. And you could really see this approach in their V3 research paper. The implied cost, like $5.6 million to develop V3. Okay, that probably only refers to the final training run.
Still.
It's incredibly low compared to the $100 million plus for other big models.
Yeah.
Or Anthropic predicting billions, maybe $10 to $100 billion for next-gen models.
This is a massive difference.
Hugging Face's head of research, Leandro von Wera, he noted DeepSeek must have built one of the best training data sets for LLMs out there,
Yeah.
suggesting their edge isn't just hardware, it's also the data they use.
So smarts and data curation, too?
Seems like it.
Mm-hmm.
And this open source thing is really core to Liang's philosophy. He apparently believes hiding tech and charging for models. That's short-term thinking. Making their models public, mostly free. The idea is that accelerates adoption, creates this flywheel effect. People use it, give feedback, it gets better, more people use it.
Get the network effects going.
Right.
Yeah.
They even quoted the inventor of Linux, talk is cheap, show me the code.
Putting their money where their mouth is, sort of.
Exactly. And DeepSeek isn't alone, right? You mentioned Hangzhou. This city of 12.5 million people, it's home to this elite group of startups, the 6 little dragons, they call them locally.
Right, including game science, robotics firms, BrainCo, which is like a China-backed Neuralink competitor.
Wow. And President Xi's government is actively driving this state agenda. Self-reliance and self-strengthening. Generative AI, robotics, they're central to that.
You can almost feel the national pride building around this. Jack Ma, the Alibaba founder who kind of vanished during the crackdown.
Where'd he go?
Well, he recently popped back up, which signals, maybe, that tech stars are back in favor with the party.
Interesting timing.
And George Chen, a policy consultant, he notes top Chinese engineers are actually returning home, leaving jobs at Apple, Google, because they feel like the real action is shifting east now.
A brain drain reversal.
Potentially. And Kai-Fu Lee from O1.ai adds that these young AI engineers, they're mostly homegrown talent now, and DeepSeek's success, that's a huge motivator for even more young people to jump in.
Still, there's all this controversy swirling around how much DeepSeek really spent and exactly what GPUs they have.
The black box problem again.
Right. A U.S. research firm, SemiAnalysis, estimated Highflyer and DeepSeek probably had access to clusters worth maybe $1.4 billion, including some of NVIDIA's banned H100 chips.
Ooh, okay. That contradicts NVIDIA's line.
Totally. But then 3 former employees strongly deny that. They say DeepSeek had fewer than 20,000 older NVIDIA chips, or the export-controlled ones, not the banned ones.
So conflicting accounts, it really highlights that opacity, doesn't it?
It does. But it also reflects this core feeling. A departed DeepSeek researcher was quoted saying, "I wish we Chinese companies could have 50,000 GPUs one day. Want to see what we could achieve." There's this ambition there.
A real hunger to compete at the highest level.
Clearly. So, okay, the AI race is heating up globally, surprising new players, new strategies emerging. But as these models get more powerful, more accessible, there's this other trend unfolding.
Right, the pivot.
Yeah, closer to, your everyday online life.
Yeah.
And this is where the story connects back to that idea that once seemed pretty fringe.
The dead internet theory? And Phil Mensa, right, the bot hunter.
Exactly. He's a distinguished professor at Indiana University, one of the top bot hunters out there. He first spotted these weird clusters of social bots on Twitter way back in the early 2010s.
So he's been watching this space for a while.
A long while. So when the dead internet theory popped up around 2021, he initially just dismissed it. Thought it was bunk.
Because the theory was kind of conspiratorial, right?
Yeah, the original version, popularized by this user Illumina.pirate, argued the internet was already this inhuman wasteland of algorithmically optimized junk. and they blamed like some secret government plot.
Easy to dismiss that angle.
Totally. But now, fast forward to the generative AI explosion. That theory is looking, well, less like a conspiracy and more like a prophecy.
It's becoming eerily relevant.
Think about it, right? Chatbot companions, AI influencers popping up everywhere. Does your social media feed feel weirder lately?
Mine certainly does sometimes. Lots of strange stuff.
Are your search results getting less helpful? We're seeing entire AI-generated news networks appear overnight. Meta, Facebook's parent company, openly talks about a future where AI helps create a lot of the posts you see on Facebook and Instagram.
And the worry there is this feedback loop, isn't it?
Explain that.
Well, sites like Wikipedia are apparently struggling under the load of AI crawlers just scraping for information to train their models. So you get this scenario where AI-generated content is being made mainly to please other AIs, the recommendation algorithms, and humans. We just become bystanders online. It really questions the whole authenticity of information.
And Renee DiResta, she's a top misinformation researcher. She found over 100 Facebook pages just loaded with AI images. Dozens per page, getting millions of followers.
Oh, wow, what kind of images?
Some showed fake miniature cows that linked to scam websites. Others had these idyllic tiny homes driving traffic to sites just plastered with ads.
So using AI for classic clickbait and scams, but at scale.
Exactly. Gen AI makes stocking these content farms incredibly cheap and easy now. And the ad industry is finding that AI is also making it easier for bots to fake being real users clicking on those ads.
Making the fake engagement look real.
Right. DiResta had this one amazing example, the exact same caption. "This is my first cake. I will be glad for your marks." It appeared on at least 18 different AI images of 18 different people with 18 different cakes.
That's just bizarre.
It gets weirder. Hundreds of thousands of likes and reactions on an AI image of Jesus depicted as a crab.
Jesus. As a crab, okay.
Yeah, this kind of pervasive, low-quality AI art. It's got a name now. Slop.
Slop. That feels appropriate.
And slop isn't just about making a quick buck with ads. There's the Russian disinformation network, Pravda. They've apparently published millions of articles on hundreds of brand new websites since the Ukraine invasion started.
Millions? Why?
It looks like a deliberate attempt to manipulate the AI models themselves by flooding the zone with huge amounts of propaganda designed specifically for those AI web crawlers to find and learn from.
Poisoning the well, basically.
Exactly. NewsGuard even found references to these fake Pravda sites showing up in answers from major chatbots. So this stuff is seeping into what we think is reliable info.
And this AI content explosion happened just as social media platforms were already changing, right?
Good point. They were shifting away from showing you posts from friends and family.
Towards promoting content from accounts you don't follow.
Yeah.
Based on algorithms.
Right. And that change opened the door wide for random AI-generated accounts to spread this slop much, much further. As DiResta put it, the content wasn't just being created, it was being recommended. The machines are helping it find us.
So the algorithms amplify the AI junk.
And sometimes, weirdly, the slop actually appeals to humans because it's so bizarre or even gruesome. It makes people pause and look.
The rubbernecking effect online?
Kind of. Jeff Allen from the Integrity Institute notes, if you limit yourself to just things that actually happened, that is a predefined pool of content. AI enlarges that pool.
Okay, but is enlarging the pool always good?
Well, what if that enlarged pool becomes like an invasive species, spreading so fast it harms everything else? Allen calls it an algae bloom that can blow up and suffocate the life you would want to have in a healthy ecosystem.
That's a powerful metaphor, an internet algae bloom. And beyond just slop, we're seeing more sophisticated bad uses too.
Definitely. OpenAI reported on cases, like a fake youth group in Ghana using AI articles and comments to try and influence an election.
Wow, political interference.
Yeah. And another case, North Korean cybercriminals apparently landed real jobs at Western companies using AI-generated resumes, cover letters.
No way.
Yes, even AI-generated personas posing as references. They used OpenAI's tools to help them get through interviews and make excuses for why they couldn't do video calls.
That's next-level deception. It's not just spam anymore.
Not at all. Another huge issue is just the sheer scale of web scraping now.
The AI is grabbing data.
Right. Tollbit, a company helping publishers get paid when they're scraped, saw the volume of scrapes double per site in just one quarter last year.
Doubled. That's insane traffic.
Yeah. When former President Jimmy Carter died, Wikimedia sites actually slowed down temporarily because so many scrapers hit them at once, trying to get a video from an old debate.
So the infrastructure isn't built for this robot traffic.
Exactly. It's built for humans.
Yeah.
This AI bot traffic is just unprecedented. It raises costs and technical risks for keeping the open web running.
And this massive scraping is pushing publishers towards making deals with AI companies for access, right? Or just putting up more paywalls.
That seems to be the trend. Shane Longpre, a PhD candidate at MIT, warns this could really undermine the whole idea of a free, open web.
How so?
Well, the average person might find it harder to get certain info without paying. Or maybe you'll have to subscribe to an AI bot just to get answers. And smaller websites, they might just get squeezed out completely. Can't compete for traffic or revenue.
Left behind in the AI gold rush.
And it's not just small players. Look at Google. Their whole search engine model was built on sending you to other websites.
A classic blue links.
Right. But now they've started rolling out AI overviews, these chirpy summaries that give you the answer directly.
Sometimes dubious answers, apparently.
Sometimes very dubious advice, yeah. But beyond that, it might fundamentally change how we use the web. If the AI gives you the answer up front, why click the link?
True. The incentive to visit the source is gone.
Some online publishers are already saying their traffic has plummeted, and they blame AI directly. Google denies it's their fault, but you can't deny the underlying shift in how we access information is happening.
It really highlights how the big tech companies' agendas, their race to dominate AI, might not align with what users traditionally wanted or needed.
Good point.
I mean, do Facebook users really want AI accounts chatting alongside their old high school friends? Meta seems willing to push it if it keeps people scrolling. Engagement over authenticity, maybe?
Jeff Allen paints this really bleak picture if all these trends continue.
The dystopian endgame.
Yeah. Real people can't make money from websites anymore. Their genuine posts get drowned out by AI noise on social media, and the dead internet basically wins.
Ooh.
He even suggests that when AI models start training mostly on other AI-generated content, they can actually collapse. The quality just degrades until, as he puts it, the internet kind of dies.
A feedback loop of mediocrity, essentially. But Menser, the bot hunter, he's not totally sold on that doomsday scenario.
Not quite. He thinks if tech companies let their platforms become these bot-filled swamps, humans will just leave. They'll go elsewhere.
If the signal-to-noise ratio gets too bad, people vote with their feet or thumbs.
Exactly. He argues that tech companies won't let that happen because it would kill their business. They need human attention.
A self-correcting market, perhaps?
Maybe. But the core issue remains. It's getting so much harder to tell what's real and what's not.
The lines are blurring.
Totally. Last year, one of the most viewed posts on Facebook was apparently a picture of a room with his giant fan built into the bed's headboard.
Okay. Weird, but possible.
Maybe. But the fan's grill looked a bit warped. And the same post was shared by lots of other similar-looking accounts. All hallmarks of AI slop.
Ah.
But was it definitely AI? Or just some really strange human creation? There's no way to know for sure. And that's the point, isn't it? The line between human and machine is just dissolving.
Yeah, it really is. So we've covered a lot of ground here. This fascinating deep dive into these dual realities of AI.
Right.
On one hand, you have the unexpected rise of companies like DeepSeek completely shaking up the global tech power balance.
And on the other, this growing shadow of the dead internet theory, threatening the authenticity of, well, everything we do online.
So what does this all actually mean for you, listening right now?
Well, DeepSeek's cost efficiency, China's big push for self-reliance, that could seriously change the future of tech access, innovation all over the world. Maybe it democratizes AI, maybe it leads to new geopolitical friction. It's a big unknown.
And at the same time, this flood of AI slop, the rise of really malicious AI uses, it forces you to be much more critical about the information you trust online, how you verify who or what you're interacting with.
It demands a whole new level of digital savviness, really.
Absolutely. Which leads us to our final thought for you to mull over.
Okay.
In a world where AI is evolving so incredibly fast and the stuff it creates looks more and more like human stuff, what does it even mean to be well-informed anymore? And how do we make sure that real knowledge, genuine human insight, not just algorithmically optimized data, stays accessible, stays authentic for all of us?
That's a huge question. And it's only going to get more pressing as this AI revolution continues, isn't it?